Law 1975 and the Federal Open Public Meetings Act. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as specified in the act. Proper notice of this meeting was posted on July 1, 2010. Said notice was also posted at the entrance of the Board of Education office. Mailed from the Nutley Sun, Star Ledger, North Jersey Herald and News, and the Nutley Journal. Mailed to the Nutley Township Clerk. This is an official meeting, formal action, will be taken. Please rise for the pledge to one side. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Kuzic, please call the roll.
Mr. Gupta?
Here.
Mr. Kaczynski? Mr. Mastrocola? Dr. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Rogers?
Here.
Mrs. Russo?
Here.
Mr. Sauter?
Here.
Mrs. Pizzata?
Here.
Mr. Riley?
Here. This time I'd like to call for the hearing of citizens for resolution items only. Now come to the portion of the meeting where we allow members of the public to address the board. In this section, we allow questions or comments on only the resolution addressed here tonight. Our board regulations allow 20 minutes for this communications. Each person shall be no more than 3 minutes. We ask you to try to stay within this time limit. Anybody wish to speak? Just come up to the microphone, state your name and address, please, and then your question.
Lori Bertacco, 152 Prospect Street. I have a question about full-day kindergarten.
Yes, ma'am.
My daughter is going to be in Lincoln School kindergarten in September, and I'm very concerned about the quickness of how full-day kindergarten was approved. Now, I know it's been in the works for a couple of years, but I was told at kindergarten orientation that it was going to be half day, and I just found out by accident, because I happened to be talking to a friend last week, that it was full day. So I have a couple of questions that I hope you don't mind if I ask.
Go ahead.
The first one is the bathroom situation. Now, there is a law, and I'm not sure exactly what it is, that states that there has to be a certain number of bathrooms within a certain amount of feet from a kindergarten class. And when I toured Lincoln School, I didn't see that for 3 or 4 sections of kindergarten. And I'm wondering, are you planning on building bathrooms in 2 months, or?
And what other questions do you have? I'll answer them together.
My biggest concern is lunchtime. I'm wondering what the plan is for kindergartners and lunch. I mean, even if there's only 40 kindergartners, that's a huge amount of children for your lunchroom. Is there enough room? And how many additional lunch aides or lunch supervisors are going to be hired? Because 4-, 5-, and 6-year-olds require an awful lot more guidance than the older children. So I'm just wondering how many more you're going to hire, so there'll be enough supervision, and where they're going to eat lunch.
Okay, do you have any other questions?
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, because I am new to Nutley, my daughter is going to be in kindergarten for the first time in September, so please tell me the answer to this, if there is one. Does Nutley have a mentor district, like a district that has recently gone from half-day to full-day kindergarten, that you can ask what are the kinks that need to be worked out, what were the problems that you faced, so that we can be prepared and not face the same problems? I was just wondering if...
I'll answer a couple of questions.
Oh, good,
I'll pass on some of the other questions to the superintendent and the board secretary. I can tell you that this is my 6th year on the board, probably my over 20 years of attending board meetings and being on various committees for the board during that time. And I can tell you that full-day kindergarten has been discussed for years and years and years. And all the logistics and what would be involved as far as a new curriculum, as far as bathrooms, as far as staffing has been discussed for years.
Oh,
so
good.
it just didn't suddenly come about.
Good.
What suddenly came about was, you know, a major league exodus of senior staff members, which allowed us some some latitude, if you will, in order to bring this program back to life. I'm being told that months and months ago, it was on the table and it was almost budgeted for this year's budget, and at the last minute, when we had our $3.2 million cut by the governor, that's when we had to take it off the table. And since that time, that goes back to mid-April, since that time, we've had almost 30 retirements that weren't planned on. And that's how we sit here today, confident that this program is going to move forward, and very excited and very proud that it's going to move forward. So bathrooms, lunch programs, curriculum, I certainly understand all your concerns. I appreciate all your concerns. We're going to be building bathrooms in the facilities where necessary. Anywhere that we need a bathroom right now, from what I'm being told by the facilities director, Mr. Nicoletti, we already have plumbing in those areas, so the plumbing's already set up, so we just have to put up sheetrock in the door.
And they will be close to the classrooms, or inside the classrooms. That's
I
what
think
I'm
they
saying.
have to.
They have to be by law. I'm not exactly
They
sure
don't
what
have
the
to
law
be
is.
inside the
Close
classroom.
proximity.
They have to be in close
Okay,
proximity, and
so-
then we have to have an aide.
Correct.
Yes.
So that answers your question. Obviously, legally, I would leave that to the administrators to legally comply with statute, which we obviously will. And I'm going to pass right now to the board secretary just to discuss the logistics of setting up those bathrooms. And I actually toured every single school today myself just to see where we are with construction as well, because construction concerns me as well. But I'm assured by everyone involved that we can coordinate these necessary construction simultaneous with the construction ongoing.
The reason that I am addressing you, and I came back from vacation today and got stuck on the parkway when the parkway was closed with a 5-year-old in my back seat to come here. But the reason I'm asking these questions is that I work for a district that just recently went from half day to full day, and nobody saw it coming. It was the lunch situation, the bathroom situation. I just don't want the kinks in Nutley to be worked out on my daughter and my friend's children. And if there's a plan in place, I really want to hear it. And I want it to work. I'm just not convinced that it will because of what I've seen personally. I've had state workers come into my classroom with a tape measure to measure the distance from my room to the nurse's bathroom to see if my room would be a good one, a good candidate for kindergarten. And I mean, I'm just very concerned.
I hope this statement puts your mind at ease. We've already had the county superintendent in to tour all the facilities to make sure, or I'm sorry, the county BA, who has to
Okay.
approve things such as this.
No.
And that person has assured us that there's no issues with any of the items that you discussed, because that's part of the agenda and itinerary that are covered
Okay.
each time this takes place. So
And lunchtime?
I'm not going to say that it's going to run perfectly. I don't know how it's going to run. I just know that we'll staff it properly, we'll oversee it properly, and I'm confident that it's not only way overdue, but it's been discussed for years, it's been planned for years, and it's not something that we just 2 weeks ago said, let's think about all-day kindergarten, and here we are with 6 people in the room.
And how about the lunch? Is it going? Are they going to eat lunch in
Let me
classroom?
first, before I go to that, let me go to the board secretary to discuss the logistics as far as setting up the bathrooms, okay?
Okay.
And then we'll get to the lunch program and the assistant superintendent.
As a matter of fact, we have already started doing demolition in Washington School today, preparing the room that once was a cafeteria for the kindergarten program. There is a bathroom in the adjoining room, so we already started clearing out the closet, and the plumbing is there so that we can ensure that there will be a bathroom in that particular classroom as well. And all of the other facilities already have bathrooms in place or bathrooms within close proximity.
Okay.
Let me turn this over now to the assistant superintendent, who's been working with the superintendent and the board secretary now almost nonstop to ensure that this takes place without seamlessly.
Lunch,
Yes, ma'am.
lunch.
Yes.
That's a big issue. We understand that. And the principals are coming back from vacation, hopefully this week or the beginning of next week, to discuss that, because one of the, actually it was Lincoln School where we discussed having lunch from 11 to 11:30 and then having the students go to recreation.
Mhm.
We don't know if that's going to work or not, primarily because although they could have a snack in the afternoon, 11 to 11:30 is early, that's number one. And the other thing is we have the adjustment of teacher schedules.
That's right.
So we have to discuss scheduling all of the specials, all of, art, music, library, gym, and how we would do that. So we're not sure that's going to work. If that's the case, we're going to have to decide among the principals, the superintendent, myself, the safest places for them to have lunch. If it's, I don't think that we will be able to logistically fit them with the first and second grade that goes to lunch. That's a big issue too. And the younger they are, the longer they take. I
And
don't
they're
want
going to
them-
need help opening their milk,
and
and
right.
there's just,
We're-
supervision is
right.
really,
We're
an
aware
issue.
of that. We know then that we would have to put extra lunch aids on.
how many do you think per class?
Well, it's going to depend on how big the classroom is. The ratio in extended day, if we have children there, is 1 to 18. We probably would have to do more than 1 to 18. Number one, there'll probably be more than, or it might be more than 18 children in one classroom. That's number one. And the other thing is, that's not going to fly with 5-year-olds. One person running around opening up their milk and their sandwiches
It
and
doesn't
whatever.
work.
So we know that lunch is probably the biggest issue we face right now.
Yeah.
And we will have that all ironed out, the principals and Mr. Zara and myself. Probably, hopefully, we can give you an answer by the end of this month, because we will be meeting. And I will also have a schedule, so that, parents can see a schedule for each individual school in terms of how we will set that up.
And will we be getting that in the mail? Will we be contacted as
We'll
kindergarten
publicize that
parents?
through the
Yes,
newspapers
we will.
around
Okay.
town.
And we can go on.
And anyone who has already, if I may, anybody who's already registered for kindergarten would be contacted.
Okay.
And if I could just say that we have veteran principals who are certainly not only very experienced educators, but also know the buildings inside and out. Mrs. Francioso was a long-time elementary principal, and I think our curriculum is set. When we did our curriculum, we did it with full-day kindergarten in mind. Our business administrator, Mr. Nicoletti, supervisor of buildings and grounds, are working on the facilities. The county business administrator did come through, and he did supply us with the forms for change of use, and he didn't see anything that really was a glaring concern from his part. I think whatever the issues are, they'll be addressed, and they'll be addressed creatively to remove any anxiety from the children as well as the parents, and we will communicate fully if in fact we'll have an orientation, we'll have an open house, and I'd like to talk to you, since your district has gone through this, perhaps you could.
I'm not the one to talk to.
Okay, and may I ask how many schools in your district converted?
8.
8, okay, we're 5, it's a bit different.
I'm also
ironically-
lunch supervisor, which is, I supervise the lunch aides in the lunchroom, and we were completely taken off guard.
May I ask,
No
was it
idea.
a nearby district?
Mhm.
Okay, we're aware of some of the issues that you're talking about.
And also, at this point, our kindergarten registration is at 187. Our graduating classes are usually anywhere between 315 and 325. It's a fair.
But that will change now that there's full-day kindergarten.
I don't know, perhaps, but I just wanted to say that we're working off these numbers
I
right now.
understand.
And I have every confidence to believe that if in fact this is decided on, that we will be ready. We will make sure we're ready. We've gone through an awful lot in this district regarding facilities in the last 3 or 4 years.
I'm new, I don't
Yeah.
know.
We've had at the high school $5 million in construction. This school approximately $27.5 million, and in the 5 elementary schools, $38 8.5 million, I believe. And all this ongoing over the last few years while school is operated, with little, if any, disruption. Certainly some inconvenience, as there is always, but the reason I bring that up is what we're going to have to do in the next 8 weeks is small when we compare to what we've done. But again, I think we'll alleviate anybody's apprehension as we move along. Again, we're putting our faith and our trust in 5 veteran elementary principals, a facilities person and a business administrator on top of it, Mrs. Francioso, who was an elementary principal. And we know that whatever the problems are, that we have to really iron them out, and we will. We have 8 weeks to do it approximately.
Any other questions?
No, I wish you luck. Good luck, really, I do.
Thank you very much.
This is
I
my
appreciate
daughter.
it.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
We know that.
Those are our kids too.
Victoria Flynn, 43 Sylvan Place. I would like to know if the Siemens or Mr. Riley, if you could please present to us exactly how this worked out financially for the district. Because I think at our last meeting, we were still looking for an additional financing to ensure that we could do it. So if you could give a brief update as to what happened from the last meeting, that would be
Do you
great.
have any other questions as well, or is it?
Maybe, I'll wait.
Okay. Ms. Jamie, do you want to address that, please?
As you are aware from the last meeting, there was approximately $216,000 that the district is going to be applying to the kindergarten program from the retirees. With the enrollment numbers that we have right now, we do not foresee the need for a trailer, which is going to save about $35,000. Also, some cafeteria tables, which can be pretty expensive, which we budgeted at about $33,000. So we're looking now for about $300,000 for the program. And some of the other funding will come from some of the savings in the health insurance line. Now that effective July 1, some members of the district have to contribute 1.5% of their salary. So some of that money will be reallocated into the cafeteria, into the kindergarten program to help alleviate some of the other budgets. And also some of the other lines, we just are going to have to closely watch some spending because we'll make some reductions in some other items that are not going to affect T&E.
So most of that 215 savings was from the retirements?
Yes.
Or all of it?
That's
Okay.
from the retirements that are for positions that are not being replaced or restored.
How does it work with hiring do we have to hire new personnel to either replace those positions?
That's the net.
That's already,
taken
taken into
account.
account. Okay. And where are we as far as a long-term plan for kindergarten? Are we working on that as well as this summer?
Well, that's part of what our ongoing budget with Mr. Cook works on with his committee and with the board secretary. So, absolutely.
Okay. And I had a last question. Oh, the only is a follow-up to what the last parent spoke about. As you may recall, some of my issues were with notice about construction. So the only thing I could ask is possibly maybe having, I don't think it needs to be a full board meeting, but I think there should be like informative sessions held throughout the summer for parents who are interested to come to get the details, because I think they're anxiety ridden, and I understandably so. They're putting their 5-year-olds in your trust, and you know, I think that would help alleviate those anxieties. I wish I had that when I was sending my child to a school when it's construction ridden. So that would be my only comment, that I hope that is considered. I mean, like I said, it doesn't have to be a board meeting. It could be
I
a
think
forum
that's a
session.
great comment, and I appreciate it.
Okay.
Anyone else wish to be there?
Hi, Amy Christman, 237 River Road. I was at the last meeting, and I know you pretty much are all on board with full day, but however, I'm the one parent who is not an advocate of full day kindergarten.
Okay.
So I don't have apprehensions about the buildings being ready, the bathrooms being secure, and finding the money, because there's always a way to find the money and make it happen. My apprehensions are, I have twins, and they're my third and fourth children. My apprehensions are my 5-year-olds being out of my charge for 35 hours a week versus 2.5, 15. That's a significant time difference for little children to not be around their parents or their mother, particularly. And I know someone made the comment last week, and I don't know who it was, about Nutley finally catching up in its progression for Nutley.
That was me.
Yeah, I actually like the fact that Nutley had half-day kindergarten. I think it allows, yes, it's not more convenient for me. Yeah, full-day kindergarten will definitely make my life 1,000 times easier, but it's not the best, I think, for my children. I don't know about other children. I'm curious about what the difference is between a full-day curriculum and a half-day curriculum. Like, what is added on? What is so different? Is there mandatory rest time at that age level?
Yes, there is mandatory rest time.
How long?
Well, we assume that it'll be after lunch, minimum of 20 minutes, maximum of a half hour.
Okay.
For students, there'll be a snack time, probably in the afternoon, you know, since that's the time that it'll go a little bit longer. I think the implementation of a full-day kindergarten introduces, for example, we now have our language arts literacy, there's math, you know, there's some social studies in the area of current events. There is science, but it's not to the type of science. There's big
Science
books
like.
and whatever. So there'll be probably, you'll see an expansion in their language arts literacy and their math. That'll probably be the areas that'll be expanded.
Okay.
They also now have 2 periods of gym a week, which is mandatory.
In kindergarten, they'll have
in
it twice a week
kindergarten,
instead
they'll
of
have
once?
twice a week.
Okay.
And then their full art, music, and library. And anything else that...
Will they, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Will they have like library twice a week, or, you know, now
In some-
they alternate years and they have like
Right.
library twice a week and next year they have art. Will they get another special twice a week?
It's possible,
Okay.
but it depends too on the special schedule. So,
Right.
you know, it's possible that they could pick up, for example, depending on the school, 2 arts and 2
Okay.
libraries, or in another school, 2 musics and 2 libraries. So
Okay.
that would be changing from school to school. And it would depend on the facilities that are available also,
Right.
you know, in terms of those special rooms.
Okay.
So the all-day, you will, though, definitely see an increase in language arts literacy and math. That's a
Okay.
definite.
But do you think a day will most of the learning be in the morning? Do you think in the afternoon will be like maybe the specials? I'm just trying to get a feel because
We hope, that's why we're meeting, to try and schedule, because the schedules are already done based on a half-time kindergarten.
right.
So the principals are coming back from vacation or back into the schools so that we can have a couple of days where we can meet and work on that. How would this best work out? What's the best way? The only way we can do that is to meet with all of us and to hash it out and discuss it and how it's going to be. It would be, we would think primarily, because in most schools the lower grades have their specials in the afternoon. At least they try to, and fit other things in the morning because, you know, it is
Well,
a
they're
learning, right?
Definitely.
It
yeah,
is
they're
a
hot,
learning curve, and it's,
Right.
but it'll depend, and they may split some of it too, and do, you know, part of it in the morning and part of it in the afternoon and mix in the specials. So we will try to the best of our ability have answers along those lines, you know,
Okay.
by the end of the month,
Right.
because we will be meeting for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you going to say something?
No, that's okay. We'll get to that.
Okay.
There's a time of meeting where it's appropriate.
It's, you know, I'm just curious because, you know, when I registered in March for them, it was half day. So at this point, if I don't want to send them full day, I have to try to find a private program. I don't really know what availability is going to be in schools. I mean, it's sort of sort of a little late in the game to be changing it for September of, for 2 months away. I know it's been on the table off and on for
It's
years.
not like the game, I'm not gonna argue with you, but this was a done deal a couple of months ago. It's only been off the table since April, now it's back on the table. So
But it
if
was
if it wasn't coming now, it was coming next year. So
Perfect,
either way.
when I'm done with half-day kindergarten,
But it's, listen, I'm not trying to dismiss your concerns. I have 5 kids of my own. I know what it's like. Okay, I have the same love and affection and fondness and concerns that you have, because I've been through it. I had my kids in daycare full-time from 2 and 3 years old, so I get it. I know what your concerns are, and I know what you're dealing with. But, I just want to tell you that I believe it's going to be a smooth transition. I know that there'll be some bumps in the road, but I think that it's going to be beneficial to these kids for just the cerebral nutrition alone that they're going to get, and to be able to keep up with everybody else. I mean, we're not the first district in New Jersey to do full-day kindergarten. I think
No.
there's over 50%. Is it? What's the statistic?
At least.
It might be 70%.
But a lot of people, when I was here the other night, and a couple of people got up and said, yay, full-day kindergarten, all I heard was, it'll make my schedule so much easier. Not one thing came out of the parents' mouth saying, oh, my kid's going to get such a better education out of it. So that's part of my disagreement with it too, that to a certain extent, I feel like, well, heck, just because it's going to make life easier for you doesn't mean that it's right. That's all. I'm just not for it. It's obviously
Okay.
going through, and I'm not for it.
Respect your position.
I was curious that you mentioned the other day, would there be any sort of half-day option? Has that been?
There will not be a half-day option.
Okay, but kindergarten is not mandatory,
No, it's
Not
not.
yet.
No, it's not.
It will be.
but not for this coming school year?
No.
Okay. Okay. And do you think come the following year, it'll still be full day, or
Absolutely.
we'll have to go to
I
referendum,
don't
you
care
don't
if it goes to
think?
referendum or we budget it and pay for it.
Okay,
Either way, it's gonna happen.
okay, all right. All right then, thanks.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to be heard? Okay, seeing no one close the portion, we'll move on to the reading of the resolutions. Ms. Russo, would you please move resolutions 1, 2, and 3 forward as listed, please?
Certainly, Mr. President, I'd like to move resolutions 1, 2, and 3 as listed. I so move.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Sauter, yes, sir.
Yes, I think that this lady alluded to the very question that I asked last time. The question at that point wasn't answered by saying that the child had to attend full-day kindergarten. The question was answered by saying that you would find out. And evidently you found out, and the child is required to go all day. Is that
No
true?
one is required to go to kindergarten. However, if they do go, it would have to be full day. They would have to be part of the program.
And I thought that the assistant superintendent alluded that to the other day, no? Okay. Maybe it wasn't answered. Yes, Mrs. Russo.
Mr. President, I'm wondering if we can get a breakdown from the budget chair as to the numbers that he came up with back in March and April for this
We
program.
can get it from the board secretary.
But that would be fine.
Board secretary is the person that gives him those numbers.
A deficiency here, and I want to,
What's your direct question?
how are we going to fund this year as well as the following years?
Well, I think the board secretary answered how we're going to fund it this year. I think there is ambiguity on next year, which we discussed in detail at the last meeting, which was if we can't budget for it, which I believe we can, it'll go to referendum.
Okay, but excuse me, I'm a numbers person, and I wanted to get that number that the budget chair came up with. I subtracted the $35,000 for the trailer that we don't need, and the $30,000 for the tables that might not be needed, and possibly some money for the health insurance savings.
Okay.
But going on the number that I was told when I was on the budget committee of 350 to 375. I'm still missing some dollars.
All right, first I'm going to turn it over to the board secretary, and she can't answer your question because that's where the numbers come from that the chairperson gets, and we'll talk to the top person in the district whose responsibility that is. Maybe you can describe it more clearly than earlier.
The original budget that we were looking at was $375,000, and that included the trailer up for $35,000 and another $8,500 for construction costs. In that construction cost was converting the lunchroom at Lincoln School. The numbers don't dictate the need for that at the present time, so that's savings of at least $5,000. The lunch tables were $33,000. So that's what we're coming up with, $73,000, bringing us down to approximately $300. The difference from the $216 to the $300 will come from health benefit savings. If you recall, we had about a $75,000 savings recently from individuals in the district who opted to switch from traditional to direct access. Plus, there will be some additional savings from all the members in the district that are now going to be contributing 1.5% of their salary into the health care benefits. That should come to close to at least another $35,000. And there's some extra money that can be obtained from some of the other discretionary funds and a little bit of savings in the cost estimate for utilities. Those are the primary areas that I'm looking at.
Does that answer your question?
For the most part, it does. And I'm wondering if we budgeted in for what Mrs. Francioso was alluding to about possibly having the need for having 2 aides per classroom at lunchtime per day, if we had even just one kindergarten per grammar school.
Staffing requirements?
Aides, I believe, I would consider reallocation of resources. With aides, certainly we would look at the number, and we do this every summer, look at the number, where the need is, where we can cut back, where we have to increase. So I have every confidence that we certainly will be able to supply the number of aides needed.
And that money was included in the budget for this?
I'm not quite sure if that was a hard number that was included in the estimates for kindergarten, or if it's something that we would have to consider regarding our aides district-wide and how we use them.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cook then?
Thank you, Mr. President. I took the liberty of putting together a chart, and I apologize for handing it out at the meeting, but when we finished it this afternoon, I was working on with the short notice of the meeting, working on it last night, and then I needed input from the superintendent and the business administrator, which I got this morning, and I also have some copies for the public if anybody would like a copy of the chart. At the last meeting, I expressed my concern, and I was basically talking off the top of my head on some of the numbers, so I figured let me put the chart together. And basically, this chart is what we had presented in April when we presented the budget, with some columns added to it. We had the original budget and the headcount reductions and the original dollar amount. It realigned the 6 retirements, added in the 19 unexpected retirements, for a total of 25 retirements. 6 we anticipated, broke it down by affected area, got from Mr. Zara what expects to put back in, so there would be a net decrease in different areas, about a staff of 20. And so this generates one of my concerns, let alone all the other logistical concerns that I share with the people who spoke before me as to whether we were rushing into this and we're going to have more chaos come September. So I had that, but putting that concern aside, looking at the net losses in the guidance area, I believe that's a SAC in the elementary schools, classroom teachers, 2 English teachers, 1 phys ed teacher, reduction, I worry about class sizes in English. Other teachers, 1 gifted and talented, it's a program which I think has been very good, and very concerned that we don't have the money for that, and 4 basic skills teachers. That constitutes 5. The other is special services, custodial, and we know that there are some gaps in some of the custodial. So, bottom line of, and the reason I put this chart together, I wanted to see exactly where are we going down, and what, and I just wanted to know facts, substitute facts for impressions. I think one of the things that this chart does not show is that in the budget we reduced the technology spending to below $100,000, and on on an ongoing basis that is inadequate. So somewhere in the future, we will have to come up with some additional money. I don't think it, in the current budget, there is some provision for new textbooks, but not that much. And as textbooks age and we have to replace them, we have a new curriculum and we have to implement a new curriculum. Or do we have the funding and resources to do that? That's a concern of mine. I mentioned the custodial positions. So those are not embedded in this chart. These are just reductions. Basically, we're looking at reductions in headcount. But you also notice clerical aides are down 100. We took out 130,000 in aides, which is a significant amount of aides, reduction in the aides. So again, it's a concern of mine. I think that the bottom line is that we need to step back and prioritize things. Where do we, what, over a 3-year period, over a period of time, where do we want the district to be? Where do we want the programs? We have existing programs. Are they the right programs? To me, to implement a new program at this point in time, when we haven't done that analysis, is from a fiscal responsibility point of view, I question that as being acting prudent. The other thing that has to be taken into account is what kind of cap are we going to be burdened with going forward? I mean, the latest proposal, 2%, does allow healthcare to be outside the cap increases in healthcare. However, 2% salary increases, that would chew that up very quickly, and I question, without the analysis, whether this is a sustainable program without going to the voters. And if we should go to the voters, maybe we should do that first before we implement it. And so I have all these concerns, and the prioritizing, the programs, the funding of existing programs, what other programs are there out there that we need to do. Gifted and talented is one that just pops off the page on me. And others, there are other things. So I really have a concern, a problem with moving quickly into this, and as opposed to doing the appropriate analysis and prioritization and implementing it sometime in the future, if that's if the funding is there and that's what we want to do, and the priority is there over some other things.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Roberts.
I have some concerns after that young lady spoke. Some things I was not aware of. I was under the impression that all the kinks were kind of worked out, that the recommendations of the principals were made. Now I understand they were not. And I'll tell you, I'm concerned.
What are you referring to, Mr. Roberts? What specifically?
When Ms. Franciosi stated that the principals are coming back to talk about logistics, and I was under the impression that all this was worked out. I'm trying to reconcile in my mind, what if factor? What if the principals, let's say in 1 or 2 schools, say, look, we can't possibly do this now. Do those schools get denied full-day kindergarten? Do we have a fallback plan? And then the next question would be this. And look, I'm not an educator, I'm not an administrator. I have to rely solely on the word, and word is bond to me, of the experts in this field. I have to ask the superintendent, you're the top guy here, are you confident, Mr. Zara, are you confident that this can work this year? Or do you think it would be prudent for us to talk more about this, to maybe get the recommendations of the principals first before we move forward? We're talking about a lot of money, but more so, this young lady kind of put things into perspective. We're talking about young lives here. I wouldn't want to put them in a situation where it could be very disruptive. So I got to rely on you, Mrs. Zara.
Well, if I had any reservations about the safety and well-being of students or our principals and teachers' ability to administer and teach these children, I would say it publicly. I have every concern. My concerns that I voiced last week were, could we get approval from the county, and could we move forward with the construction, making the buildings ready? That was my concern. I feel the curriculum is in place. Kindergarten teachers, half-time teachers would become full-time. We would have to hire. Unfortunately, we have a plethora of applicants. I have no reason to believe that we cannot be ready for a September opening.
Okay, well, I take your word for that, and as I mentioned last meeting, we did, when I say we as a board, made a promise to the public that if they passed the referendum, they would have full-day kindergarten.
I don't recall making that promise. I remember making the budget presentation, and I remember saying that we were taking it out and that we need the budget to pass in order to do what we were going to do,
Okay.
which excluded all the kindergarten. So I do not recall any promise that if the budget passed, we would.
Well, all right, I believe we did, but I could be wrong.
Nah, you're not wrong.
I'm not.
It was not.
Point of order, let's keep this in a
As
proper.
you can see, we struggle with these things because they do affect a lot of people, but hey, look, the superintendent of the school's the expert here. I'll go by his recommendation, and hopefully we're going to make the right decision tonight.
Mr. Misterico.
Mr. President, I apologize for my lateness, it's unavoidable, but if you can please, someone just give me 2 or 3 minutes on real quick as to what was said. Was there any negativity regarding it? Were there concerns about the full-time kindergarten?
Yes,
Real quick, if you could.
there were a few people that came onto the microphone and discussed their concerns about logistics, as far as bathrooms being ready, what the lunch impact would be, curriculum, rest time, how it would flow as far as throughout the day, what subjects would be
So
taught.
it was a
throughout the
staffing
day.
issue, it was a lunch issue, it was a curriculum issue.
Those were
We've been
the.
assured the curriculum is fine, we've been assured the staffing is fine,
Mhm.
and has the lunch issue been resolved?
I think it's just a question from what we heard from Mrs. Franciozzi. It's a question of, do we separate the lunch periods and how do we do that logistically? And the superintendent assured us that could easily be resolved. But until the principals come back and everybody sits down and is in agreement, right now it's an open issue.
Well, when are we getting that information from the principals?
Well, the assistant superintendent is going to sit down with them soon.
Well, today is Tuesday.
I mean, this was just came about tonight.
Well, today, I spoke to 2 principals
Okay.
and emailed the rest, so we're just waiting for a date. They're around. They haven't left for vacation.
Any indication of what you think the response may be
From the principals,
from a principal standpoint?
it's not as though we didn't know this might happen.
Right.
So there has been some discussion about lunch and about how we would do certain things. So, they're pretty well seasoned in terms of how to run their buildings and what would work best. And I trust them to make the right decisions. We actually put the autistic program together in less time than this.
Right, I know, and it was very successful.
Extremely.
I just wanted to just comment on what Mr. Rogers said, and I agree with Mr. Rogers' comments, but I disagree with one of those small parts. That was the fact that it's not that I don't take into consideration what principals or staff say, but it's more so as to what the superintendent said, because it's not our role to question a principal or a staff member, it's our role to talk to him. So if he feels confident, he's going to put that plan forward to us, and that's what I would want. And I want to be sure we are covering all of the areas that we need to cover.
By way of explanation, we started working on this in the fall. And then when we lost 34% of our state funding, when there was so much coming out of Trenton, we just knew that it wasn't affordable at that time. But we had a great deal of the thinking done on this. And then when the retirements came through that we didn't really anticipate, that gave us breakage, that gave us some money to revisit this. I think everybody around the table makes very valid points. I just have to assure everybody that if in fact the board approves this evening, we will work very, very hard to make sure that this is done and done well, not just thrown together.
Well, comment is that, can you anticipate anything new being said now that wasn't thought of in the past? something earth-shattering to come to you guys and say, this is an issue, that's an issue, and this is going to be really different? Because if it's just logistics, I think that we can work the logistics out.
I think so. Our biggest concern was the actual facility
Okay.
in each
Have we
building.
overcome that?
Yes, we
Okay.
have. I don't want any children squeezed in, and I don't want a particular group of children in a trailer. In the trailers, all of the students go to music and all of the students go to art.
Okay.
I don't want any group segregated, and so that should work well.
So it is going to be our position here not to put any, if we do move ahead with this, there's no kindergarten children are going to be in trailers.
Just specials.
Or
Only
special education.
specials. Yeah.
No,
special
specials,
education.
music, art.
They would go in the
Yes.
trailer. I agree.
Mr. Sauter, yes.
Yeah, well, this has been talked about for a long time. As I said before, I think one of the advantages of having a full-day kindergarten will encourage more young people to move to the town, which I think is good. Secondly, if we're gonna wait for the ideal moment for this to happen, I think we're gonna be waiting forever. I don't think we can wait till we're awash with money and everything is set up just perfectly. That's never gonna happen. I think you have to do it when you have to do it. And we've had assurances from our financial person, from our educational people, that it's going to work out, but we have to do it.
Thank you. I just, before I call the roll, if anybody else has anything to say, before I call the roll, I just want to inform the public and everyone here that obviously Mr. Gupta sat down today to go over this 2010-2011 budget reductions. And the only thing about this document that I would question is that none of this has been approved by anybody here yet. This list of personnel has not even come before the Personnel Committee. So to understand this whole dynamic, I would have difficulty with it since we really haven't approved who's coming back, who's not coming back, how many are coming back, how many are not coming back. I understand what the superintendent is looking for, and this is his his wish list, if you will. But none of this has been voted on by this board yet, and we're not even going to have a meeting on personnel until next week.
Mr. President, I'd like to comment in that
Sure.
all the more reason to say, to push and vote on all the kindergarten when we don't know what the staffing for the rest of the programs are, for the other 3,600 students that we have under our charge.
Well, what we do know.
So again, are we acting prudently if we don't know if this chart is not valid? Then how do we know whether the 216,000 is valid?
Well, here's what I know is valid. I know that the board secretary, and assistant superintendent, the superintendent, and the staff, the principals, the director of buildings and grounds, and to some extent myself, have been working on this nonstop for weeks in coming before this body with confidence that it can happen. Now, let me just say, without getting into too much detail, there's also other areas we could look at to draw funds from and revenue from that we haven't even discussed tonight. So this is like worst case scenario, not look anywhere else kind of funding, in my opinion. This list here, just so we're all understanding this list, to my knowledge, the superintendent told me this list that you just went by is bringing 100% of the staff back. Is that correct, Mr. Zara? Almost 100%?
It's bringing a large number back, but not
If you look
100%.
at the net decrease is 20. After retirements, there's 58 reductions, and then we bring back 38. There's a net reduction of 20.
Well, there's also a difference in class sizes and everything else that's going on.
Absolutely.
And we, by
Absolutely.
the way, just to remind everybody, with the maximum reduction, which you appropriately said I think is 58, we were assured by the superintendent months ago that at 58, it would not impact.
It's 39 that we get.
Okay, so strike that. With the 39 reduction, it wouldn't impact. So if it's my position that if we're bringing back half of those 39, then it's got to be a better thing for this district, and to get full-time kindergarten along with it, to me is a no-lose situation. But I certainly, that's not dismissing what you're saying. I understand your concerns loud and clear. Mrs. Russo, please.
Mr. President, has anyone reached out to our neighboring district of Belleville, which did institute a full-day kindergarten program last year, and I believe if I have correct information, they can that this year, and they're back to a half-day program.
I believe now they're back to a full day program. Yeah, I believe so.
Anyone else before we call roll? Ms. Kukuza, call roll, please.
Mr. Gupta.
No on number 1, yes on 2 and 3.
Mr. Mascarotola.
Yes.
Dr. Reed.
Yes.
Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Mrs. Russo.
Yes.
Mr. Sauter.
Yes.
Mr. Spizzato.
Yes.
Mr. Riley.
Yes. At this point in the meeting, in this section, we allow all questions or comments on all school-related matters. Regulations allow 30 minutes for these communications. Again, each person is limited to 3 minutes for all tried to stay within this requirement. All discussions will be directed towards me as the chairperson. Anyone wish to be heard, please?
I have a question, Victoria Flynn, 43 Sylvan Place. Last week, there was, I don't know, last week, June 30th, remember? It was last week. We were all here last week?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And we before that.
There was a reference during, I believe it was Ms. Neiman's report regarding the state coming here and looking at our public contracts and bid documents. What is that, can you explain what that purpose was for and indicate, I wasn't sure if that's a normal review process, was it a normal audit, was it, and what were they looking at?
No problem.
It's not normal in the sense that they come every single year, they rotate throughout the state. And basically what they are looking for is affirmative action issues, making sure that the mandatory affirmative action language is included in all of the contracts, that we have business registration certificates from every vendor that we are dealing with. And they are primarily looking at all the contracts that are over the bid threshold, which during that time was $29,000.
And you noted that there might be some deficiencies. Were they going to issue a report, or will you report back to the board?
They're going to issue a written report, and at that time I will report.
Okay.
And then they will give us a timeline for any corrections that need to be made.
Okay. Is this the same group that's written reports in the past about the board? The Office of Fiscal Responsibility is a different? Who from the
It's a
state?
totally different
Okay.
division.
What
This is
division?
from the Department of Treasury,
Okay.
contract compliance.
Contract compliance. Okay. Thank you. That answers my question.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Hi, I'm Crispin, 237 River Road. I just wanted to make sure I understood. A G&T teacher has been let go?
Say again,
A
please.
gifted and talented teacher? That one position has
No,
been lost?
what I said was we have not approved anything yet. There's not been a complete personnel decision made. Nothing's been approved, nothing's been
Right,
disapproved.
right.
The superintendent has a list which will be presented to the personnel committee
But-
shortly.
But, and the reverse argument of that is you haven't met with any of the principals yet either, yet.
Well, that's what
You
the
just
su-
felt
that's what the
free to
super-
pass
No, no, no,
fully
that's what the
kindergarten.
That's not true. I think we made it clear tonight that they started this
Fall.
in the fall, actually years and years ago, but in the fall, the
But you haven't
superintendent, and
definitive
let me
answers.
finish, please. In the fall, from the fall, the superintendent and assistant superintendent have met with everybody, with principals to discuss this, with grounds people, with everybody.
I truly do understand what you're saying,
Mhm.
but then why aren't there definitive answers? I mean,
I think because we never really put it to bed. I mean, initially, it was wide open. It's not like we didn't discuss it. I mean, we planned a curriculum around having full-day kindergarten in September, so it's not like
well, you've done
it's
that for a
brand new.
couple of years, I understand.
No, the curriculum was just passed recently.
Passed recently, they redid that revision 2008, 2009. They did add a component for all-day kindergarten, but this year when we revised our curriculum, they changed many things to be against the standards for all-day kindergarten. So the revision took place this year.
Actually, the kindergarten, well, I'm not very happy with that. But however, my concern more was with the gifted and talented.
Mhm.
I had some questions because I had met with Mrs. Francioso back in March,
Okay.
expressing many concerns about the program.
Mhm.
And it's really subpar. Twice a week for 30 minutes for children who are at a higher level of thinking. And I'm not talking about being a grade level ahead, in skill, that sort of stuff. But there's definitely a difference with those children and how they think. And I'm just disheartened because when there's extra money, I'm not saying, when there's extra money, why can't it maybe go to like an existing program? Or maybe try to find someone to go. You're finding money for kindergarten. So of course people are going to start coming out saying, well, why can't you find money for this and why can't you find money for that? So I'm saying, why can't you find money to improve gifted and talented?
I'll let the superintendent speak.
Some years ago, we had one individual overseeing gifted and talented, and this board made a commitment to expand the program, and we have 3, as you know. Certainly, is that ideal? No. And what we have to do is balance priorities, not make decisions, but balance priorities, because everyone comes to us with a different priority. There's so many expectations from a school district by its citizens for their children. And even our staff has different priorities, and our administrators have different priorities. And what we have to do is do the greatest amount of good with what we have. That's the way I see it. We do have a gifted and talented program. I think it's so much better than it was. We try to meet the needs. Believe me,
I believe you, then that's really not saying much about what it was.
No, it's saying that's an evolutionary process. It's saying
Right.
that Rome wasn't built in a day.
Right.
It's saying we came from 0 to having, you weren't at these meetings, we were.
Right.
To having children standing before us in the 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, winning award after award after award against districts that we're compared with because of our
district factor.
district factors. I don't even know what it is anymore. It's an F?
FJ.
FG, okay. So, we're compared with Milburn, we're compared with Livingston, and we buried those districts this year. So we're not saying that program is failing. We're extraordinarily proud of where we've come in a short period of time with that gifted and talented program. Now, are we satisfied? Absolutely not. We'll never be satisfied. Like you, we demand more. If you were here in April, one of the things I spoke about on our first day here was that we're demanding more academically. And the superintendent last week just presented, a 3-year plan to us. We've had curriculum changes. Every single curriculum in this district has been updated. So
What would any changes be for gifted and talented? Because I had spoken with Mrs. Francioso about some different ideas, and then
Right, we
you
talked
know,
about
didn't
a
really-
magnet school, and I said that probably wouldn't happen.
Right.
We talked about scheduling all of the children, for example, in 4th grade with one teacher so that certain things could go on. We have discussed that with principals, and that's an ongoing process. Certainly not a magnet school, because that would require transportation. But we would discuss maybe a pilot program in one school where children would be self-contained with one teacher in that particular program. We're willing to try different things, but it's very difficult to do that when you don't have a teacher in each school. And we don't have a teacher in each school. And hopefully, just like we don't have an elementary guidance counselor / SAC in each school, hopefully we'll get there. Just like years ago we didn't have a nurse in each school, and now we do. So hopefully these programs are building, and we'll be able to do that. But if you can't segregate those programs from the big picture, and that's what happens. And for many years we have actually complained about not having an all-day kindergarten and not preparing our students for 1st grade, like many of we have found with our testing that many of the other school districts that had all-day kindergarten provided their students with that leg up going into 1st grade. And so, we've been really ready to do that for quite a
Right,
while.
I'm not debating kindergarten,
Right, I
first
know
grade.
that, but I'm
I'm-
saying that
I'm-
took precedent this year when we were actually able to
I'm curious
move that
about what
ahead.
possible changes could be made, positive changes for gifted and talented.
I know,
Because
we've
I
discussed
talked-
that at
We
length,
discussed
right.
it, but yet you didn't call me back for
No.
like a month and a half.
You know what?
And-
You talked at least 6 times and you visited me in my office. It's not always easy for me to talk about one thing when several things are going on. And I think
Right.
we talked about that, but I don't
But you
have
told me we
the
had to
answer
wait to
for you.
retirements, and we have to wait to this date.
Do
Okay,
you
we have to wait to
realize,
this date,
Ms.
okay, and
Christensen, do you realize that in the second week of April, this body found out that the governor decreased our budget by $3.2 million?
Yes, I am aware of that.
Are you aware of the impact that had on our programs and
I
our
am.
budget and the scrambling that Mr. Cook had to
I'm
do with the budget
fully
with
aware of
the
that.
VA?
And quite honestly, when I didn't hear from her for 6 weeks, I just kept calling, and that was fine. And I was told retirements, and I respect that. But I stand here just wondering now, since we've found the money for full-day kindergarten, if there's any money that you just stated a little bit ago, something along the lines of, well, there's some other areas we haven't even explored that we
Right.
could get some money.
And
So I'm
that's
saying,
something, and I
maybe-
can't answer your question
Right.
tonight, but anytime you want to sit down with us or the superintendent again, we're happy to sit down with you.
I'm just
and-
concerned, because I have
No,
a
no,
child
no.
entering 4th grade who's bored out of his mind at school. And the only time he comes home to me and talks about school is when he goes there twice a week to see his
Ms. Holland.
yes.
Believe me,
So, you know, I
Dr.
have
Reed,
lots of concerns
Dr.
that,
Reed and Mr. Cookta chair that committee. They chair the technology committee and the academic committee.
right,
And we will not settle for anything but academic excellence. We've talked about it since April, and we're going to improve the district. There's no question about it. We already have.
The point I was making is that we are not prioritized, but we're working with competing priorities.
right.
Every parent advocates for what they believe is in the best interest of their child, and that's why we're here, to try to meet everybody's needs within reason. If we had an unlimited budget, the answer would be yes to everything, but it's balancing. The music people certainly want more money put into the music program, K through high school. The athletics want more there. Our teachers certainly want updated textbooks.
Right.
Technology, everybody, and what's happening here, unfortunately, is our discretionary spending is not increasing, it's shrinking. So as costs go up and our resources go down as far as what we get from the state, even the federal government, that we really have to balance. And we look at every penny. The days of windfalls from the state and the federal government are over, and I don't think they'll ever come back again. So we're trying to, and if you look at some of the things, we did not have a legitimate gifted and talented program 3 years ago.
Right.
We do now. We didn't have an autistic program. Those children were sent out of district with all that that entailed regarding transportation, their children on the bus for incredibly long amounts of time, and very expensive programs. So we have that. We've increased our AP courses at the high school. We had 2 or 3. Now we're probably 14, 16, 17. Our vector courses in the middle school. We've added technology. We've added so much over the years. And again, it's always trying to make do and maximize whatever we have. So we're certainly, when Mr. Riley said we haven't discussed that yet, we haven't. It's my job now to present to the Personnel Committee what I would like to bring back as far as staffing, and to the Academic Technology Committee what we'd like to do regarding academics for the coming year. Mr. Riley asked us to put a 3-year plan in place. We've given a broad overview. We're going to give more detail. And again, I've been in this a long time, and a lot of people here have. And I have never seen such a state of uncertainty. A 2% cap is coming out of Trenton, although the Assembly hasn't passed it. Then there's waivers outside the cap. What are our health benefits costs? And on and on and on. So we're trying to do the very best we can. And one of the things that years ago, Nutley prided itself on spending so little per student. I'm talking about 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And that was a statistic that I really thought that we should not be proud of. And now we're trying to spend as much as we can. And so when we have these savings regarding retirements, there is some thought of putting it away for a rainy day, and there's another thought of giving more opportunities to students. And hopefully, we'll, as Mr. Rogers said, Mr. Cook did, is an outstanding resource regarding finance and budget and projections. And he is working on budgets for next year already. So there's an awful lot here. And
Right, and I understand that, and I respect
But
what
what
you
I
guys
guess
are
the point I'm
getting
trying to
bombarded
make
by
is,
people.
we're not turning a deaf ear to anybody. I think
Right.
everybody who
I'm
brings
just
something.
curious, do you honestly feel that twice a week for 30 minutes is a legitimate?
Let me answer it this way. It's better than what we had. It's not as good as I would like it to be.
And we will improve. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Seeing none, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Scaritolo.
Thank you.
Ms. Lopez.
I'll be here